top of the ninth. So the way we're going to do it today is that Kaylee's the director of lay materials, and the secretary can give a few words, and but Kaylee can do an overview of what the lead program is about, and then how this LRCA fits in, and then we're going to have the contractor Mohan and Sanjay to walk through the key components of the project, and then do a demonstration of the project, and which is I have seen, and it's very telling. It's very good when you see it, and then obviously question and answers from anybody, because it's evolving. The still project is happening. We don't anticipate to be ready until the end of October, sometime in the fall, and but we are, working heavy on it. So with this, I'm going to turn it to the secretary. Ben, you want to say anything? Then it's not Kaylee next.
Well, let me first extend apologies to all of you from the chair. He had some unexpected work requirements that would not allow him to attend, but he wanted to let you all know that he still is very interested in this project, but he's not going to be able to attend today because of work requirements. So with that, you can go ahead and proceed. Mr. Secretary.
I don't have anything to say. I'm glad we have this opportunity to share with you and learn with you. Thanks to all the members of the committee, and thanks HT Horacio for kicking it off. Thank you.
Okay, good morning. My name is Kaylee Laliker again. I'm the director of the Land and Materials Administration at MDE.
Could you speak up a little bit? Thanks, Kaylee.
Sure. Can you hear me better now? Okay. So my administration includes the lead poisoning prevention program. So thank you again for the opportunity to give a preview of the lead rental certification and accreditation, or what we've been calling LRCA project. So the lead program, we've been working very closely with the Office of Information Management and Technology at MDE and our contractor, Saragor, for almost 2 years now on the development of this new database. And this is a project that touches on almost everything that we do at MDE related to lead. So we're very excited, as HT said, that this is now coming toward its conclusion. And one of the reasons why our lead law has been so effective is because it has different aspects that really comprehensively address lead poisoning prevention. And so that includes, ensuring proper accreditation and training of the private entities that do lead inspections in Maryland and conduct the abatement work that makes property safe. And it also includes components that require property owners to maintain their properties and have them re-inspected periodically. And then we also have our own internal processes to enforce the law and track compliance and our compliance cases to their conclusion. So because of all these multiple components, it's really important that we have good data systems in place that we can pull together all of the information that we need to be able to implement the law. So the LRCA project will take data that was scattered previously across multiple older databases and combine that into one easier to use and more modern database. Another thing it will do is allow us to convert processes that are currently done by paper, like the lead certificates, to electronic processes. And this will make things easier for the private lead inspectors, and it will also reduce the need for data entry on the part of MDE, which will allow us to devote that attention to other things. And then I think another thing that is very important about the LRCA project is that it will improve access of information to external users, including the general public. So for the first time, it will enable anybody in the public to instantly look up the lead certificate for any property in the state, which will really increase the ease of access to information and transparency of this data. So those are kind of the main goals and components of this project. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to the Saragor team, who's going to walk through a preview of LRCA and also give a little demo of some of the key parts of it.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Kelly. Good afternoon, everyone. Now it's past noon, so I can say good afternoon. So I think you gave a very good overview of the whole the gambit of the entire application. So let me share my screen, and I will start presenting. Okay. So I hope you can see my screen now in presentation mode. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, of course, do an overview of this whole application that we've been trying to develop for the last almost 2 years now, a little less than that. And as Kelly said, earlier we had disjointed system wherein we had some very old system that was supporting the accreditation functions, another system that was supporting the certification function, which is certification of the properties. And then there was another system which was supporting the oversight and compliance cases. And information between these systems was pretty disjointed. And what we're trying to do is trying to develop one modern integrated system where information flows from one system to another, and kind of seamlessly, and they kind of feed from each other, and kind of eases the burden on the MD employees in terms of the functions that they have to do, wherein earlier they have to go into multiple systems, gather pieces of information, and then bring it together, try to analyze it, and then do their job function. But now with the integrated system, everything will be there for them in the same screen, and they really don't have to go in and out of different systems to get the same pieces of information. And that's how we kind of planned it, that we have these modules, which are accreditation module, the certification module, enforcement module, and they kind of sit on each other. So like if you look at accreditation, wherein private parties, which could be individuals as well as companies, they can come in and seek accreditation for the lead prevention work that they're going to do. And that could be inspection, remediation, or whatever kind of work. There's different levels of accreditations, which you're all aware of. So they basically come in and apply for it. And then, of course, seamlessly that goes into the queue of the MD staff, which processes the application. And then based on the accreditation issues, then when the inspectors come in to schedule certification, then they can pull up their record, and we also interface with some other systems to get all of the other data, which I will talk about in a bit. But then the certification module is kind of sitting on top of the accreditation module, feeding the data directly from there and being a coherent source of information right there. And then the enforcement data kind of sits on top of both of these, wherein we look at the property owners as well as the accredited entities and see if they're really doing a good job or not in terms of what they're supposed to do, or if there are any slip-ups, any kind of issue that they've caused in their work. Then, of course, the MD can go and take enforcement actions against them. So that is the kind of the gist of what we're going to do today. I will be doing some demos here as well after this overview. So if we really look at the accreditation module in detail, I mean, of course, we talked about it, all the companies or individuals who really want to work on lead prevention, lead poisoning prevention. And of course, on the right side, if you see, there are like 12 different functions, which are again high-level functions. There are also sub-functions in there, and a lot of things that have gone in this whole application. But pretty much, if you really look at it from high-level perspective, then basically gives someone an ability to come into the system and create their user ID, password. They can provide their information and then create an account so that they can access information which is relevant to them. That is the first function. And we also have a function which is a public function wherein no login is required. And I'll talk more about that when we come to that. And then they can come and based on once they have kind of registered themselves, they can look at the various trainings that are available and register for them. And on the other side, there's a training provider who can come in and schedule trainings into the system. And then the users who are coming in can pick up those training and say, okay, I really want to really attend this training so that I can get accredited, or I can renew my accreditation, or whatever is applicable. So that part is there. And then the training provider, of course, can come in and update the performance of the training, like how did the individual do? Did they really attend the full course or not, or did they really pass the exam, which is kind of something that is administered to them after the course is done. Did they pass that exam or not? And things like that. And then after that, they can also come into the system and take an exam, a third-party exam, as MD calls it. And that is also a precursor in some of the accreditation. And if it is applicable, they have to come in and they have to pass that exam. So they can register for that exam, come in and take the exam, and then MD personnel will basically update the result of the exam, and then they can come in and make an application for accreditation. And then the system will allow adjudication of that application by MD staff. And of course, there are subtle things into that, some of which I will talk about. And then at the end, if the entire process is successful, then they can basically print a training certificate or print a accreditation certificate. And then, so the next module is about properties, which is the certification of properties, whether they're lead-free or not. All rental properties, which were built prior to 1978, or even sometimes even later, if they had some leftover inventory of lead paint and they used it, then they also fall into the gambit of this. So basically, giving a system so that people can come in and seamlessly schedule inspections, perform inspections, update results of the results of the inspections. And this, again, as I said earlier, it takes data from two sides. One is the accreditation data, which is coming in from the accreditation module that we just talked about, wherein the inspectors who are accredited, they have their own account and they can come in and schedule inspection. But they also need data for properties, and that is something that we're sourcing from OLRR, which is another system that MDE has, and also from SDAT, the tax data that's coming from the counties. So both of these data sources are coming together, and that has information of all the properties, their owner, at least as per the records that we have. And then so that inspector can come in and pick up a property. This already, the records are preloaded. They can also pick up the owner, or choose a owner, because the property may have multiple owners at different time of point in time, and they can choose which owner they are working for. And they can schedule inspections, then they can perform inspections, then they can basically update the results, and then print a certificate and basically hand it over to the property owner. So so that is there in the certification module. Again, a lot of other subtle nuances there as well, but I'm trying to cover it at a high level. And then we have enforcement. And enforcement, as I said earlier, is basically making sure that everyone is doing their job as they're supposed to. They're in compliance, and both people who have been accredited as well as properties that have been certified. And if they're not been certified, then of course that also becomes a part of the compliance or compliance enforcement. So over here, we basically kind of get data from help system, which is the CDC data, which tells us if a child has been poisoned by lead, he's been victim of lead poisoning. Then that data comes in, and this data is this kind of automated interface, which will run every day, wherein data will come in and then will feed into the system, and then will prompt the MD staff. And MD staff will basically determine whether they really whether the poisoning did happen or not, whether they want to open a enforcement case, whether they want to pursue it or not. You can also get referrals where someone calls in and say, "Oh, I think 3 houses down the lane, there has been a case of lead poisoning," or someone is doing some work which doesn't appear right to me, or whatever. So that is referrals too. And based on that, cases are open. And then, of course, cases have a lot of nuances in there, a lot of fine points in there, wherein you can do investigations, inspections. You can also do correspondences with the parties. You can also send the case over to Office of Attorney General. You can also do any kind of settlement with the parties, and maybe agree to the terms of the settlement, also monitor the conditions of the settlement, whether they've been fulfilled or not. So basically the whole 9 yards. This enforcement module provides everything that supports current business processes, as well as some enhancements as well that were discussed during the whole development process. Where what if we had this feature as well, it would really make our life easier, and we incorporate many of those features as well in this whole application. And the next thing I have here is the interfaces. We briefly touched upon this earlier. So we kind of getting data from different sources to make sure that user has all the information right there on their fingertips when they're using this application. And the data is coming from OLRR, which is the rental registry that MD has, and basically brings in all the data of the property and the property owners into this system, into our LRC system. We also have HB 935 data that is coming in, and basically just to make sure that any accredited individual, as per the law of Maryland, they should not get accredited if they have any legal liability remaining, which they have not paid. And that is what this interface is all about, which just tells us if someone has a legal liability, then their application should be put on hold unless they clear it. And similarly, we have an interface, or in fact, 2 interfaces with SDAT, the tax data. One of the interfaces is just getting the property data from tax records along with the ownership records, and kind of merging it with the OLRR data, so the goal is to make sure that we have a comprehensive list of all of the properties in Maryland. When the inspector goes into really schedule an inspection, they should not really say, oh, what do? I don't really see this property at all in the list. So that should not happen. So the goal is to get a comprehensive list of all the properties, and that's where SDAT data also comes in play, because we do have cases where a property has not been really registered with the OLRR system. And then the second set of data that we have is the tax liability data that is coming as a second interface, which is basically related to the companies. If they have any tax liability, then again we can interface that data in here, so that their application, if any, can be put on hold. The other 2 systems over here, which is Merlin, is just the property parcel information, and the help system, we already talked about it while I was talking about the enforcement, which is the poison child data, or the child health data that is coming in to determine if a child has been poisoned, and if it warrants if it warrants the opening an enforcement case or not. So that was kind of the high-level overview. I want to go into the demo now. Is there any questions before I go into the demo? Are there any questions?
Chair? Dana?
I'm good.
What, Mr. Chair, you're, I have a question.
Yes,
Oh,
yes, sir.
go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the slides that you have presented us, I see that there are some information is in red and some is in black. What is the difference between the color coordination? Why-
No,
why-
basically, the thing was I think it was the things that were put on red. We thought they'll be more interesting for the audience that we have, but they pretty much all of the functions are there. So it's basically the kind of we try to put highlights on those particular items, thinking that the audience that we have may be more interested in those items.
Okay, can I have a follow-up question, Mr. Chair?
Sure.
This data that you're providing, is there a direct coordination with this data to the judiciary system?
I can answer that question, Delegate Holmes. This is HT. The judiciary had told us clearly that a judge cannot have the data. What the attorneys representing the tenant and the property owner can come together and look at the data, just like the public can, and they will confirm that the property is in compliance or not in compliance. But the judge himself and the judiciary had talked. We have met with him before. We did a report a couple of years ago, 3 years ago now, that they said the judge cannot use the data. He cannot sit there and look at the data himself. This data, he's a judge. So he has to. But the attorneys representing both sides could avail themselves, or the tenant or the landlord, to the data quickly and be able to download the forms. And when you see the demo, you'll see whether the property is in compliance or not in compliance. And that's where it will determine whether they get an eviction or no eviction notice.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sure. And we do have a number of other delegates with questions. Delegate Terrassa.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So what came up before in legislation was that we wanted the judiciary to be able to seamlessly integrate with the judiciary and for them to be able to take judicial notice of this. If there were legislation that had them doing that or gave them the ability to take judicial notice of this, would this be able to be integrated? Is this
Yes.
need to be integrated with their system?
This will be open to anyone, but it shows a question of would the judiciary want to have access. And so that's a question for them.
Okay, so
definitely, this be open to anybody.
So there's nothing that needs to be done in addition to give them access. It's whether or not they want to
Access or not.
access it or not. Okay.
Yeah,
So
that's perfect. That's exactly.
and can you just really quickly follow up, not a follow up, but a second question, Mr. Chairman. Can you just tell me really quickly, because I'm not remembering what HB 935 data is? Oh, I'm sorry, that's not for you, Mr. Tablada. If there was for,
No.
the presenter who's
Okay, all right, sure. So HB
Yeah.
935 is House Bill 935, and that basically mandates that anyone who has any kind of liability, legal liability remaining, which he has not paid for, should not get accredited. Okay.
Okay.
And that,
We label it as House Bill 935 for reference, but that legislation was passed, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, maybe even more now. I don't recall
okay.
it, but its legislation affects not just the MDE, it goes across all state agencies.
Okay.
We label it House Bill 935 because we should put a name on it. But
Okay, thanks. And
yeah.
my apologies for cutting you off. I didn't know if you knew the answer to that. I know you hadn't spoken about it, so my apologies. Thank you for answering that.
Okay, Delegate Love.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you everybody for your time. We really appreciate this presentation. Nice to see you, Mr. Secretary. Very briefly to my colleagues about the judiciary, I recall the judiciary coming in and saying, fact-finding is not our job. Our job is to look at the law and the facts that are presented to us. So I know they don't want access to that. I'm happy to talk a little bit more about that offline. But my question was, will there be any sort of public education component to this project? This is incredible information, and we want to make sure that attorneys and those who are coming to court pro se know that the information is there so that they can then access it.
I don't know if Kaylee wanted to talk about that. Yes, with every new system that we have to have an internal education process with our own staff who have been very involved down to every level there. But then how do we reach out to the accredited people on the outside? Kelly, want to talk about that? What's the plan?
Sure. So yeah, I mean, we have multiple different avenues where we provide education to accredited entities in the public through our website and we have a bulletin that goes to all of the accredited lead paint inspectors and abatement contractors. We do periodic lead forums where we provide education. So I fully anticipate that we will provide instructions and information about how to access the new information that's available through LRCA once it goes live, and we can provide detailed instructions to people for how they can access that. And we can do that through our existing forums where we provide education and outreach.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Delegate Weigel.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I had a question on your accreditation page. So is this whole process referred to kind of the training for the trainers who offer the courses, or is this new for those who take the exams to become certified to do the work and do the inspections?
It actually is both, I think.
Both?
Right.
So it's a new process for those that are, because before the trainers always administered the exams and did the back work to submit that to MDE. So you all are kind of taking a more active role in administering the exams and issuing the certificates?
As far as I know, this process already existed, but maybe someone from MD wants to speak about it.
Yeah, I can take that one. So there's several different components of the law, and there's different entities that are responsible for different parts of it, and all of that will essentially remain the same, but it will allow for certain parts of that to be done electronically through this LRCA system rather than through paper mail processes that we currently have. So we regulate the training providers who, as you mentioned, they actually provide the training for the accredited inspectors and abatement workers that they need that training before they can become accredited, and we make sure that those training providers are providing adequate information in their training courses. So that will remain the case, but we will be able to approve the training providers through LRCA once this goes live. And then you have individual lead inspectors and abatement contractors who have to receive accreditations from MDE. That will remain the same, but again, that application process and our approval of the accreditations will be able to happen through LRCA rather than by people mailing in paper applications and mailing in payments and things like that. And then there's the actual certificates, which are that's what the lead inspectors issue after they go to a property and do an inspection. They issue a certificate that shows that that property has passed the inspection. So again, the individual private lead inspectors will still be responsible for issuing those certificates, but they will be able to, rather than issuing a paper certificate that then has to be data entered, they'll be able to enter that information directly into LRCA. So it's kind of keeping the existing structure, but making it so that a lot more of that can be done electronically through this centralized database.
So my question was more in regards to the licensing accreditation module, not the certification of the property. So I'm still not clear. So when a training provider provides the 1 or 2 day course to the attendees, they always administer an exam, and then you either pass, fail, and then you got your certificate from the training provider. Is that training provider now going to an MDE website to administer the exam, and the certification is coming from MDE now after this is implemented?
No, all of that will remain the same.
Okay.
It's just that our accreditation of those entities can be done through the LRCA system.
Okay, that's what I thought. So this is more in regards to the trainers themselves and their
Right.
process.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Good. Very good. Delegate Healy.
Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for this presentation. It's we've had concerns about it. I think you've heard from several of our colleagues about one of the issues that we've been very concerned about is how this happens to be taken when it's taken to court. And I know you described that there would be, I'm not an attorney, so I'm going to, if I'm wrong about this, please correct me. But the way I understand what you said is that since both the attorneys for both sides in a dispute about this sort of thing would be both have access to the information. And my question is, how definitive is it if they think that the data on the website is in error or has been manipulated or dishonest? How do they present this to court? What do they do? Can print something out to present to the judge saying, this is what we think, and this is the data that we have, and this is what's on the website? Since the court doesn't want to access it themselves, the attorneys to do that and present it in a way that they can present their argument. How does this facilitate the process is really the essence of my question.
So can they print information from this website, get the data from this website, print it and in a printable format? Yes, they can. Definitely will allow them, right? But then again, how do they really want to pursue it legally? I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm competent to answer that question.
Is there someone in the department who can answer that question about how authoritative or definitive is this data if it were being presented in court?
Delegate Healy, this is HT. I can, the way we envision to work it was Sanjay mentioned the attorney will be able to download and print the certificate, which we have some, I imagine, I don't know exactly, because I haven't seen one printed, that we have the MDE logo and some certifications that show that it's an authentic. And because both sides are able to print the same thing, so the problem they're having right now is that somebody can falsify a number or put in the wrong number in, and nobody will know that's the correct number. So they, they have to take it as the word. When somebody say, "Yeah, I'm registered, I'm in compliance," well, the judge has to take that at the word that is correct. Now they'll be able to show a piece of paper, the attorneys, to say, here's MDE showing that it's in compliance or it's not in compliance. And that the law says that if you're not in compliance with the lead laws, then you cannot evict the person. You have to then place,
Right.
the law.
So I guess the question is, if there's a problem with the data, if someone says they're in compliance and someone disputes that, and they each print out a document, the documents look the same, but maybe they're not totally the same. Or maybe what they're printing out from is not accurate. I'm just wondering how this database, because and this whole computer operation is going to help resolve the issues that have come before the committee over the years about people falsifying the documents. Will it be impossible to falsify the documents now that it can be verified online? Can an attorney point to that in court?
I'm not sure if I understand your question, and it's always a concern for us. However, when somebody going to the trouble falsifying a document before the court, that carries other ramifications, other consequences. So I think that our objective has been when I personally met on my team with the judiciary, and they said we chose right now the way you do it, the way it is right now. I got somebody can go to court, landlord can go to court and said, HT is not paying rent, he needs to be evicted, and they check the box that says my properties are in compliance with the lead law. Here's my number certificate. Here's my registration number, and that's all the judge has to move forward. Now, I'd be able to go there and say, wait a minute, the property is not in compliance. I just got this from MDE that showed that it's not in compliance. So a judge at a minimum should delay the case until somebody proves more information. But I don't know how the judiciary will use this information.
Okay.
Our role is to get information available, easily accessed for the people, but I don't know how the judiciary will use it.
Okay, thank you so much.
And Delegate Healy, I guess just to follow up on your question and what Delegate Love said, I guess anything can be contested in court, and it's up to the court to determine then if for some reason what's been presented is inaccurate. But hopefully this process will lead to at least a presumption that the data that's found in the database is accurate. But that doesn't prevent someone from saying no, it's not really correct.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Delegate Ruth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So if I understand right, the paper applications are going to be replaced with an electronic application, and then that data then feeds through and will be what's ultimately searchable in the database. Will there be a transition period where some records are on paper and some are electronic? And how will that be handled if somebody is searching for records and they're not finding it, but maybe there's a paper record from before?
Sure. So the way transition will work is that MDE staff will have capability to basically take paper applications that have been received in the transition period, and they can key in those applications into the system manually themselves so that the data become coherent, like it becomes single source of the truth. All the data will reside in the system eventually. When those applications are received, MD staff will key them into the system and then process them as if they were received electronically.
Thank you.
Okay.
And I just want to add what Mr. Sanjay has said. We will keep all the data that is currently available. So any data which has been collected for last 10, 20 years, it is still with us and we can search on that database.
So that information will be searchable even if it wasn't entered directly in?
Yes, we are keeping all the data which MDE has collected over the last 10, 20 years, every single record.
Okay, thank you.
Delegate Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to, Matthew, if you could do us a favor, please, Matthew. There was a reference to HB 935. If someone knows it, what year was that? So that we can just look at the actual legislation of HB 935, the year of its effective date. Additionally, this process that we're going through now, when is the date that it will be officially launched? Officially launched. What's the date it will be officially launched?
I would say I'm going to lead that. Jesse McKinney is the project manager, works for MDE. And Gary Anastasio is online too. They have on the contract obligation certain deadlines. But you want to talk about the deadline? How would this roll out, Jesse?
Oh, absolutely. Afternoon, everyone. So we have a dependency on our go to live date is dependent on our servers being provisioned by the Department of IT right now. We're shooting for late October at this point. The final date is going to be dependent on when we get that. We're hoping to kind of wrap up the fund certifications for it and the provisioning for it this week. That's really, we're doing the best we can in that regard, and I'm very happy with CERACOR's progress on this and to its progress on this at this point. So we'll have a better idea in about a week's time frame what the exact date is, but it's going to be the end of October.
You kind of broke up there for one moment. You said there was some coordination with servers that is necessary, and then you also mentioned funding. I'm hopeful that you have the funding that you need, but you broke up there a little bit about the servers.
I can speak to that. That I get the Holmes to launch we have everything the prototype working. We've been doing with that, so it needs to be transferred to the large servers, and so we need to acquire those servers, and we're in communication with Department of Information Technology. And the fund certification is just that it's just a budgetary term to say that the money is in the bank, so we can get that. So that's running in parallel. The project's still being developed, finishing some modules and more information. So, and everything will merge together at the end of October. That's our target date. By, I don't like to say by Halloween, but the end of October. We should have everything ready to launch live, but as any system, it will may take a week or two or a month to tweak around and find mistakes, and then you keep tweaking until you get it up and running. So hopefully, I like to say that sometime in November we have something that we're totally functioning. But the mechanics of these servers is just that we need server capacity and needs to be purchased through IT and the information technology department, and put in their fort, they call it, in the area that they keep all the servers, because MDE doesn't have those locations anymore. Our servers are kept by Amazon or by the other location.
If I may, Mr. Chair, follow up. How will you notify us that this has been launched?
Tyler?
Yes, I would be happy to send a letter to the chairman as soon as this is launched and provide you the information so you can check it out for yourselves.
And also, Tower, could you, I think Jesse said that in a week you'll know, you have a much better sense as to the actual launch date. Maybe if you could let the chairman know when you determine what the launch date is.
Certainly.
Okay, great.
And Mr. Chair, if I can follow up one more time, and then I'll
Sure.
be quiet. In addition to that, if you're moving along this process and you're looking at your servers and the funding, if there's a problem someplace, if you run into a glitch, we also want to know about that as well. So we can discuss this with whomever is holding up the process, so we can kind of get this thing moving, because as been indicated, we've been looking at this for a number of years now. So if there's a problem someplace, please let us know that as well, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. Thank you for the offer. We'd be happy to tell anyone that we need help, because as you know, we've been, we're like almost there. I can see the light there, and we're moving forward, and we're going to get this done one way or the other, but we're going to get it done. And so this is a high priority for the secretary, and at the end, we did not forget that all this is to help the children not get lead poisoning. That's the whole target for this. And we've been successful in the state, 98%, more than 98% reduction in lead poisoning. Very great accomplishment. But this will help us to really be in a fast track to even further reductions of lead poisoning. So this is not database just for database. This is behind these numbers are children, parents, families. That's what we want.
Okay, any other questions from committee members? All right, don't see any. Yeah, so if we want to move on.
Okay, thank you. So I'll start presenting my screen again, and then so if you can confirm, you can see my screen. So here you should be seeing the application is a login page, and I'll go into this login page in a bit. But before I log in into the application, I wanted to show you the public access information. So how do you really, how would a member of public come in and basically look at whether the property has been certified or not? And it's pretty simple over here. If you really look at on top of it, I have a certificates tab over here. Just click onto this tab, and then it basically presents this option for search of property certificates. And I just have to key in an address, give the county where it belongs, and then I can pretty much do it. So let me pull in something. Is my screen visible to everyone, or should I make it larger?
It looks good, Sanjay. Thank you very much.
Okay, very good. All right. And then I pick up the county. Okay, and then search button. And here you go. It tells me that, okay, there is a certificate for it. And then it was passed, and I can just click on this. And basically will give me the certificate right here. Here's the certificate. So basically the certificates have been digitized, and now as going back to the question that was brought up earlier, if a certificate was falsified, but whatever is in the system will be here reprintable at any point in time. So if it has been falsified or something, or someone has taken a paper copy and manipulated it, I think it can be pointed out by going back to the system and comparing the data on the certificate. So that definitely is doable over here. That was the public access function. And again, there was some fields over here that are mandatory. That is like, you need to know the address of the property, and you also need to know the county of the property. And that was basically to basically avoid people putting in very generic search, which brings thousands of records and bogs down the system. So people should know exactly what they're really searching for. And also it prevents people from like doing a name search. I think the law requires that someone cannot just say, okay, give me all the list of all the properties that Sanjay Mittal has, like my personal name, right? So it does not allow that as per law. So that is also there. So let me go in and log into the system. And this is the login page. And I have only like maybe 5 more minutes remaining. So 5-6 more minutes remaining. I mean, of course, 10 more minutes, but we want to leave a few minutes for question and answers as well. So I'll try to show you a little bit of the application. And as you see over here, this is the main landing page of the application. It has a lot of menus here. I'm scrolling it through it very slowly. There's a lot of menu options over here, and some related to accreditation, of course, some related to certification, some related to enforcement, but they're all here. And based on what my authority is when I log in, we have role-based access into this application. And based on what my authority is, I basically get presented only with the menus items that I can access. So of course, someone can come in and do a training course, someone can do a third-party exam, someone can come in and apply for accreditation. Someone from the company can come in and manage their employee and say, this person works for us, or this person used to work for us, but no longer is working for us. It also, someone can come in and look at their application, their accreditation. Someone can come in for the company and manage the location. Someone can manage the classes, right? Then also we have inspection and certification module where someone can come in and schedule. And we'll of course be going into a little bit detail of that if we get time. And then we talk of reports. But let me go towards the MDE module. And MDE module this is the key function. I think one of the major function that MD will be having, which is processing of accreditation application. So, so I'm into this screen now, and it basically gives me a list of all of the applications that are pending, which have not been educated yet. And the two tabs to it. One is, of course, on the top is the applications that are new, that have not been assigned to anyone. But then also there are applications that have been assigned. So let me pick up one application from here, and I just want to show you how it looks. And I go into this application, and it's pretty much, if I don't know if some of you may have looked at those applications, the paper applications, and our goal was to make the transition as smooth as possible. So what we did was we kind of replicated the UI to look like the paper application. The fields are there, which are filled in, but the application kind of looks almost the same as the paper application. And this one is particularly for a training provider app. And then over here, there's some high-level information on the training provider. The contact information is right here. Then various other type of information. What category are they really going for? And then who are their employees? And they can also give whether they want to do a public listing or not, whether they want to, what are the courses, and this one being a training provider application, what are the courses they're going to offer, and things like that. They can also attach documents over here. And then ultimately they can basically sign the application and submit it. But this is the application that has already been submitted. So what the MD staff has to do is look through the application, make sure that everything is good. If they're missing information, they can basically chat. And the system does provide this functionality as well, wherein they can go in and chat, message the person who kind of send this application, so that they can in real time send them messages, say this is missing, that is missing, or your application is deficient, or whatever they really want to convey to them. They can do it right away, and the person can respond back right into this, so that messaging facility is also provided. But then they can basically change the status. This application is already so basically I can say edit status, and then I can change the status of the application and say, okay, this is approved. And then I can save this status. And then as of this date, this application is approved. So I could do that too. I'm not going to do that right now because we're already at 12:54. So let me see if I can go into another module before I close. And I think the next module.
So Sanjay, just one thing I would like to add. So we have a number of accreditation. This is just one example that Sanjay has showed. We have approximately 30 different kind of accreditation. So there are different forms, but we just wanted to show one process, just to give the idea.
Exactly. Thank you, Mo. And then if I may just take a few more minutes on enforcement, I can go into enforcement too. I think there's some a lot of people from judiciary or with some people with legal capacities that are here. So I think it'll be worthwhile for you to see the enforcement module. And this comes in when people have already, when MD is going in and determining whether someone didn't do their job properly, and because of that, a child got poisoned, or there was some complaint against someone. So they go into enforcement. And as I go into enforcement, I can look at the cases. And there are a lot of cases, and I can go into detail of a particular case and basically look through the details. So I'm just going to go into one of the cases and look through the details of the case. And here it is. So basically, and again, the idea was that all of the information that there is can be presented comprehensively in a single screen, wherein people can come in and basically look at information and perform actions right there. They don't have to really go between screens or juggle between systems and different systems to get to the same information. If you really look at the case over here as well, we have the case information, the owner information, then and a lot of other things that are related to the cases. But I'll scroll down quickly And after that, I think it's already 12:56, so I'll leave a couple of minutes for the questions and answers. But then a lot of other things over here, like what are the actions that are taken in the case? What are the correspondences that went into the case? What are the, how were those correspondences delivered? Were there any inspections done? Was there any environmental investigation done? Was there any settlement in the case? What were the conditions of the settlement, right? Were there any fiscal records that were created, like the penalties and all that? What did those fiscals involve any kind of installments, right? And were there any case logs? So everything is right here at the fingertip of the user who's using it. And again, this, as I said, I mean, this is not public information, but this can be made available to people who MD thinks should have this access, and they can be basically given user access based on the roles that they are assigned to. So the time right now is 12:57. We just have 2-3 minutes remaining in this call. So I think I'll end my presentation right now and then leave it open for maybe last few questions which may have.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. Delegate Ruth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And first of all, I just want to say this looks really great. Really appreciate all your work on this. I think this is going to be really useful. I just had a question about this public search, and I had, just by way of reference, I had a constituent I was helping who was a tenant, and their landlord was not in compliance with some things. And I can see how it would be useful to be able to search to say, for example, if that landlord had other properties in Baltimore County, to see if he was also not in compliance with those. But I think you said that was prohibited by law.
That's what we were told. That was one of the business requirements that we had, that there should be no search based on name of a person alone, because I think the law prohibits anyone getting a list of someone's properties from our website.
Mainly, Delegate Ruth, this is related to business practices that a competitor can get a hold of your properties, and then they can do things. So, but yeah, the department though can have access. You brought that case to us, we'll search who all the properties are owned by the same owner. And we usually do global settlements. Our Office of Attorney General, Andrea Baker, Principal Counsel, she done many settlements who are global settlements where we take one landlord and we bring all their properties in compliance. So it's not just the one property.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and if I did not cover on the certification module because of lack of time, but over there, if someone from the department went, they can search for owners. So inside that, that function is not available for public, but that definitely is available for the MDE staff.
Okay. Let's see. Delegate Healy.
Thank you so much. Along the same lines, question is about what exactly of this is accessible, for example, from a member of the public who was considering renting a property and they wanted to find out the details about the history of it and if it had always been in compliance or if there was any kind of pending issues with either the apartment that they're interested in or something in the same building or something nearby that had, so that they could get a sense of whether they want to take the chance of moving in.
Yes. So, and going back to the public search that I showed you earlier. So, and let me go there so that I can show it to you again. So if I go back to this search, once they put a property in there, so they will get the entire history of all of the certifications for that particular property.
Okay, for that individual property, if there's more than one apartment in the building, will they get it for all of the apartments in that?
Yes, that
they
is
will.
true.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other questions? I have a quick question. earlier, at the start of the demo, when you're showing sort of the window of all the different searches that could be done, accreditation, et cetera, there was a box that said enforcement-old to be deleted. And
so it just basically this system is still we kind of in the process of freezing all the code. So that definitely will go away. That's not going to be part of the main application when it's deployed.
Okay, so what are considered to be old enforcement cases?
No. Basically, we had a copy of the same module, and we should actually deleted it before this demo, but we did not. But this is not relevant anymore.
I see.
All of the information will be right here in the enforcement module. Old or new does not matter.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that's all the questions. I want to thank the department, Mr. Secretary, and
Thank you.
Sanjay, your colleagues for this great presentation. Very informative. Delegate Holmes, any closing comments you'd like to make?
I really appreciate, as indicated, all the work that's been going into this. And I'm very happy that we're finally coming close to a resolution on this. As has been said earlier, it's taken a number of years, but I think both the public and those in the industry are going to be very, very pleased with the outcomes of this. And I really appreciate everyone's time. Thank you so very much.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to say how much of a partnership this is, and we continue to appreciate your support, the members of the committee, for your intense interest in this. And we will certainly continue to work to deliver the results that are needed, and look to you all for help and continual involvement as we roll this out. Thank you so much. Really appreciate all the members' active engagement and support.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. And we appreciate the partnership with your office and your department as well. All right, with that, we are done. And so I'll say so long, and everyone have a good day.
So long.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.